Live. Hello friends, welcome back. I'm John.
I'm Peter.
We are your advanced weekly update team. I hope that you're having a good week. It was really hot yesterday,
yes.
But it's supposed to be the cold winter season, a perfect time to grab a cup of coffee, pull up a comfy chair and practice your English, right?
Although they say that this winter in particular is going to be milder than some other winters have been because of the effect of El Niño.
El Niño. There is some Spanish. We'll learn today about the origins of the English language, why that's important for you. El Niño is a Spanish word.
Exactly.
And of course, in the United States, there's a lot of Spanish language speaking influence with Mexico right there. El Niño, do you know what it means?
Yes, I don't know what the Spanish means actually, although maybe you do.
It means the boy.
The boy.
El boy.
El boy.
El means the and Niño is boy.
And it's a name for this massive jet stream, this part of the atmosphere that has a big influence on the weather each year in North America and apparently worldwide.
That's right. We learned the other day that the word burrito means little donkey. So sometimes knowing a little bit of another language can help you learn English. But why do you study English? I really want to know. So look at the poll down below. Why do you study English? To make money, to be a better traveler, to understand English books and movies, or I want to show off. It looks like our poll is exactly split in 4 ways.
Yeah, so we got a nice diversity here today.
So let's talk through some of these. Why would someone study English? Well, the first one is pretty straightforward. English is good for business. We have a vocab here that I want to teach. Lingua Franca. Lingua Franca. This is a term that means a bridge language. So that's our first vocabulary for today. Lingua Franca. Now there are a lot of very useful languages to know. Many people are studying Chinese because it's a terrific language to know for international business. But English in some ways has become the lingua franca, which means the common language for trade. In the past, Latin was the lingua franca in certain areas.
Right. Greek in the times of ancient Greece.
Yeah, in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
These days, there are a lot of international businesses, right? People from India, Israel, America. I know that in a lot of the telecom industry, people are working globally because of the supply chains. And they need a lingua franca, they need a common language. So oftentimes English becomes the lingua franca.
Yeah, I'll never forget the first time I understood or learned about what lingua franca meant. It was this example given, I think in a film, of how a South Korean airplane pilot of a commercial airplane trying to land at a runway in a Moscow airport in Russia. Both the ground controllers in Moscow and the pilot in the from the South Korean airline will speak to each other in English. You know, 3 languages going, but you got to have one that both sides speak so that they can communicate, because Russian guy probably doesn't understand Korean, Korean guy probably doesn't understand Russian.
Yeah, it's the lingua franca, the common or bridge language. I believe that came from Latin originally. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the English language. What's its history? So where did we get the English language? B, all of the above. I agree, these are all good reasons. Oh wait, we got to cover our other poll questions here. So to be a better traveler. So like you say, English is a very common language. You can speak English in most parts of Europe.
Pretty much,
most parts of Africa. In South America, Spanish is really helpful to know, or Portuguese, but you can still get by with English in most parts of the world.
Yeah.
So it really helps as a lingua franca. Hi, Alan. English is an international language, widely spoken worldwide. Learning English enables you to access a great amount of information on the internet. That's true. There is a great amount of content that, unless you know English, is less accessible. And lots of sites like Wikipedia, just because of the .com boom, are primarily in English. Though with tools like ChatGPT, it's easier to navigate the internet. All right, whatever language you speak. Okay, number 3, to understand English books and movies. We know that Hollywood, I actually used to live in Hollywood. Hollywood is in California. English-speaking place. So a good amount of some of at least the most expensive films in the world are produced in Hollywood. But there's a lot of challenge in that market, like Hong Kong, in Bollywood, in India. There are a lot of international films as well, but some great shows. What do you think about this third one here.
Right.
Understanding
English books and movies. Yeah, no, that's great. Although a lot of movies today do have subtitles in English or in Chinese or in any language, really. I just want to briefly mention that I appreciate the section of you out there that are honest and saying that you study English just because you want to show off.
Yeah.
I hear you.
You know what if you don't know what showing off means to impress people, like to do something to impress people. Sometimes that's me. I love, like, if I speak even just a few words of an international language, I always want to try it. And of course, we can have mixed motives, right? Your motive, what do you want?
When you say you do something to show off, or that guy is a show off, it usually means they're doing something that is impressive, but not really necessary. They're just doing it because they can do it and it gets attention.
Like juggling.
Like juggling, yeah. Or like a baseball player deliberately making a very dramatic catch of a ball or something. Yeah. Show off,
Yeah.
It's not always the best thing, it can be like, oh, that guy, he's just a show off. He always just wants to show everyone how good he is at whatever. And it's good that he has that skill, but if you want to use it with modesty as well.
Yes, and there's one very important reason to show off just a little bit, and that is if, like, Peter and I, we've each married someone who speaks Chinese. So to learn a little bit of Chinese to show off. I remember speaking a little bit of the Chinese I knew to show off to my soon-to-be wife.
Yes,
she was working in the library, and I thought I would show off by speaking a little bit of Chinese.
Oh, yes, me too.
Sometimes there's a reason to show off.
Yes. No, it's true. It's true. Show off can sometimes be, see, to me, that's not showing off.
Not really.
That's, woo.
Wooing, W-O-O, to woo somebody. It's trying
to make yourself appealing to them.
Yeah, to woo.
Showing off is kind of like that, but too much.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
you are a show-off.
Yeah,
don't be a show-off.
Don't be a show-off.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about the origins of English. So how did it get to this point where it's the lingua franca? There's this group of languages called the Indo-European languages. So the Indo-European languages are it's a wide language group, and it includes certain branches of languages in India, and now a lot of the languages from the European continent.
Right.
Those are the Indo-European languages.
Yeah. Indo-European.
It's kind of more for the students of language, but there's a branch of those in Western Europe called the Germanic languages. If you know anything about the history of England, where we get English, England has had many different countries invade and occupy, and so a lot of the mainland languages like Latin, like German, French have really influenced this language. You described English as a mutt earlier off the air.
Yes,
M-U-T-T. A mutt is typically...
Yeah, a mutt originally refers to a dog that has parents from different breeds. Different breeds of dogs.
A mixed breed dog.
Mixed breed,
a mutt. Yeah.
And you'll hear it applied to any animals, sometimes even people, if you don't like them.
You say, I'm a mutt. I'm partly Scottish and partly German.
Right.
A mutt.
And for English in particular, it is a language that has borrowed so many words from other languages. Yeah. Compared to other languages, at least, that English you can describe it as a mutt language.
It really is. There's another, so in English is called a Germanic language, but it also is really connected to another group of languages called the Romance languages. When I think of the word romance, I think of a heart and being in love, but it's from the city of Rome, R-O-M-E. So the Romance languages were languages from Latin, the language of the city of Rome. And they're like languages like Portuguese, Spanish, Italian. They have a lot of like A's at the end. And it's a very expressive, beautiful group of languages. Yes. So a lot of the more complicated English languages are from the Romance languages.
Right, and it's not by accident that they're called Romance languages. There's a double meaning there because, they came from Latin-based languages, and the capital of Latin culture was pretty much Rome in Italy. Yeah. But they often say, particularly of French, that French is the language of romance, the kind of heart stuff that John was talking about a moment.
The language of romance.
I need to practice on how to make the heart thing.
Just like one of these.
Just like that.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Okay.
That was like a real heart shape.
That's right.
There's a real heart shape.
I was making mine surgically accurate.
Surgically accurate heart.
But the Romance languages are often used for romance in a way that the Germanic languages are not.
Hey, well, we shouldn't make people out there mad if they're from like Iceland or something like that.
Oh, no, it's not that Icelandic people can't be romantic just because their language isn't a romance language.
We'll leave that up for debate in the comment section. B, you've got here, learning English enables you to exchange ideas with people from around the world. It's so true, right? If we can't speak a common language, it's really hard to understand each other fully. So being an international language speaker is really important. You know, I think... I think you will understand that already if you're at this point in your English speaking. We just want to encourage you to keep going. Now let's talk a little bit more about English and English as a language. You know, it's gone through a lot of different changes. There was something called Old English. Old English was English from many hundreds of years ago, and it sounded completely different. Words were used very differently. The beginnings of the same grammar were there, but English has changed a lot. And now, later on, we have more proper English during the time of the British Empire. And this was something called the King's English or the Queen's English, kind of a standard global English that became different in India and the States. But there was kind of this idea that if you spoke the best English, you spoke the King's English or the Queen's English if there was a queen at the time.
Right. It was called the King or the Queen's English depending on whether there was a king or a queen ruling at the time.
Yeah. So to say like, oh, that guy speaks the King's English, he's well educated. Yeah. In the States, there's this thing. Now let's talk a little bit about the way you speak. There's something called a dialect. You've heard about having an accent, right?
Yeah. An accent is just about pronunciation, how the language sounds when you speak it.
Yeah.
A dialect has to do with grammar, with vocabulary. There's a good example in England, in America. People would say, would you like a cup of tea?
Yeah.
Would you like a cup of tea? But in Britain, they might say the same thing, fancy a cuppa? And it's the same thought. Fancy a cup of tea is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, they're both speaking English. So this isn't a matter of accent, although there is accent involved. But it's because of dialect that some English speakers in America would say, do you want a cup of tea? And other English speakers in Britain would say, fancy a cuppa.
That's right. Accent is the way you speak based on another language. So let's say you speak Chinese and you start speaking English. You will have a Chinese accent, probably, and that's actually totally fine. I encourage my students, don't worry about losing your accent. There's much more important things. People will think it's cool, if they're smart, they'll think it's cool that you're from another country. If they're the kind of people that will never like anything, then forget about pleasing them. Just focus on the words. But a dialect is a different region. So in the southern U.S., there's a certain dialect, a way of speaking, a word choice, and in the northern U.S., there's a different dialect. And so that's really interesting. There's this thing called there was once a time in Hollywood when people tried to make a universal dialect. They called it the Mid-Atlantic. So the Mid-Atlantic it would be between England and the U.S., right? In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Right, and the Mid-Atlantic dialect sounded like a cross between British English and American English at the time.
You'll see it in classic movies like pre-1950s. Everyone's trying to talk kind of like this.
It's like, hello, John, how are you?
Yeah.
Here we are talking about English, and we're not quite English, but we're very formal in our presentation, and there was none of this kind of, more character stuff
from the streets
that came in, or, people from the South talking like this. That was not a Mid-Atlantic accent. That was more Dixie.
Yes. So I think it's really interesting at this stage you're at to think about dialect and accent. Again, don't worry, never be ashamed of your native accent. Just speak anyway. But it's helpful to think about accent at this point. Sometimes just for comprehension, right? It can be hard to understand someone who speaks with a strong Scottish accent. Oh my, kind of chewing on their words. But it's helpful to take that into consideration, as with any language. I want to know, though, what's your favorite way to study English? I had a friend that he has a 1-year-old son, and he asked me, what's the best way to get him to learn English? He was kind of shaking me like, well, how? And I was like, hang on. I think the best way at an early stage is to listen to songs in English or in whatever language. And I would still actually encourage that at the stage you're at, even if it's very advanced. Listen to songs. In this season, get into those classic hymns where you've got older vocabulary. See if you can figure out what people are saying. But the music will help connect different parts of your memory to those words.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea, actually, because I used to sing choir in college and a little bit in high school, and we would usually be singing in a language other than English, because so much music is written in Latin or French or Hebrew or even Swedish sometimes. And each time we would get someone to say, this is how you say this word, this is how you say this word, but singing it helped really sink the words down into the deep memory along with the pronunciation of it. Now, I couldn't always tell you what I was singing. I had a general sense of it.
You were saying it.
But to this day, I can just whip out a little bit of Hebrew just from having memorized the song. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam. And I know I'm saying something about a Jewish prayer blessing, but it's because I had to sing that it's still there.
That's amazing. Well, so that's your tip for today. Learn it through
Alan's
song. Alan, listening to English songs motivated you when you were a student, just started to learn English, and here you are, responding in amazingly worded English sentences. Good job, Alan. We appreciate your dedication.
Now, could you sing that for us? No.
Sing it for us, please. So our poll is coming in, by the way. It looks like the loser of the poll is I want to show off. And maybe we're all, maybe that's not our main motive, so that's all right. Making money and being a better traveler are tied, but to understand English books and movies came in first. Kyle, hi! Copying the conversation is the best way to learn English. Yeah, just repeat it, right? Just hear what people say and repeat it. I think that's also a really good one. Reading and listening to Advanced B. You didn't have to say that. We paid B to say that. B, thank you. We do hope that the conversational style of Advanced is able to help you. That's our goal here at Studio Classroom, to focus more on conversation, practical English. I know it's sometimes easier to study for tests, but we appreciate you going with our learning style. Hopefully you can speak and use it. Now, friends, we can see you in person, God willing, this upcoming week. We're going to be at TICC, the downtown Taipei. There is a Christmas show. There's actually a play that I helped to write. It's mostly in Chinese. You'll be able to practice some English, but you will be able to enjoy a beautiful Christmas concert and play by Heavenly Melody and the teachers here at Studio Classroom. There's amazing dancing, there's beautiful lights, and there's even a competition with some games. You'll also be able to see a ukulele band and lots of other fun stuff. Come see us this weekend. The link is below here. Hi. Thank you, B. We appreciate you. We love you. So come and see us. We'll put the information down there below. This is our Christmas rally. We do it every year. This year is actually, if you've been to them in the past, this year we're trying something new. We have a lot of talented theater people, directors, and choreographers we're working with. And so now the show is, I'd say the show is something you have probably not seen for Studio Classroom do for their Christmases. So come and check us out. Let us know what you think. It's free, but you do need to get a ticket. They're going fast. We've got a 2:30 show and a 7:30 show next Saturday. The 2:30 is almost sold out because we've got a lot of families bringing their kids. But if you can make the evening show, please come there. We'll try to meet you in the lobby afterwards. I would love to see you and say hi, see who's listening out there. All right, we appreciate you. Click that link below. If you haven't subscribed yet or joined, you get a lot of extra content. Subscribing, you'll just know when we're about to go live. And Peter and I are going live here. We appreciate you watching. Jiayo on your English. God bless you this Christmas season. And that's it.
Gourmet, thanks for the plug. Glad we're helping you.
Woo!